Welcome into another episode of the Young Entrepreneurs Network podcast. Today's guest is someone that I've been so buzzing to have on, not just for the knowledge that he's going to provide, the insights, all the secrets behind the curtain, but just for the patter in general. Mark is someone that, from watching his content, from following for a little while, and also from meeting him at a Phil Graham event, across the whole event, all I heard was, "Is that two Scottish cunts over there?" In a mess of like 50, 60, maybe even 70 odd Northern Irish and English individuals. And then from there, I just knew I was like, one, need to get in the podcast, but two, we need to get a dinner, all that sort of patter. So yeah, obviously I've kind of just gave you a rough kind of blank of how we met, but in terms of what you do, mate, in terms of anyone that maybe doesn't know you, how would you introduce yourself?
My name is Mark Strathern. I'm 31, just turned 31 last week. I feel a lot older than that. I feel like I was wise beyond my years from a very early age, so I feel like I'm in my 40s now. You know, that way. I feel like in my early 20s, like I made a lot of mistakes probably in my teenage years. Early 20s matured a lot. People were still going out doing the boisterous stuff as they do. But I started my career inside the fitness industry when I was 20 years old. Made me really step up because I've never been employed in the fitness industry, always been fully self-employed. And I think with that comes like a layer of responsibility if you want to do well, that everything just stands on your shoulders. Yep. So you're like the centre of your own universe, and anything that is good comes from you, anything that's bad comes from you. So I started in the industry, 2014, that'll be. So coming up for 11 years in February, I think, which is wild. That's like over a third of my lifetime doing the job that I do. And mate, I couldn't even hold down jobs prior to that in call centres and stuff. So I kind of fell into the industry because like I didn't leave school with any qualifications. It's funny as well because when I started really getting into what I love doing inside of the job, like nutrition, training, sleep physiology, all of that sort of stuff, it was related back to a lot of the stuff I hated in school. It's like biology, chemistry, all the sciences. And I was like, see, if you just made it this fun in school, I would have definitely been responsive to it.
100%.
You know, instead of talking about fucking photosynthesis and plants. So got into the industry at 20 after multiple failed attempts at just working in call centres. So I'd done pensions for Prudential, done retention for British Gas, worked in First Direct, worked in British Gas again doing sales. And I was like, I hate this. And I kind of get into the industry like myself training because when I was younger, I had quite a difficult time probably through my early years. Like I had a really bad speech impediment, which you probably wouldn't manage to kind of guess now because I can't shut my hole now, in all honesty. So I had a speech impediment. I was bullied quite a lot for it, especially off like older kids in my area. Really struggled to kind of felt like I fit in anywhere. And when I say bullied, I mean like not just like mentally and emotionally bullied, I mean like physically, like getting battered off like teams of guys 5-6 years older than me at a time. And then when I got to my teenage years, I'd overcame my speech impediment. I'd went through like intense speech therapy and all that. I felt like I was like missing out on so much that other people had. So I was like, I need to do what I can to fit in here. So I started to like really mold myself into environments, but it really took me away from who I was at the core, which was always like a kind of sweet, empathetic, really caring young guy. And it just started to take me down like the wrong routes, like booze, drugs. Ended up going to court at one point for 4 different charges. So I could have went to jail when I was 17. Ended up off the back of that being like, nah, things need to change from here. Don't get me wrong, I've made mistakes since then, but nowhere near to that same level or same extent. Especially like 17, you're just leaving school, like the stress and pressure it puts on your parents, and they didn't need that. And we were always kind of taught from a young age, like go out and work, because my mum and dad were very much of the mindset of if something happens to us, you just need to be able to look after yourself. So that's probably what I meant by being like very mature beyond my years to begin with, because even from like the ages of 12, we were going into the city centre together. I was making my own lunches and dinners because of the shifts that my mum and dad done, because my dad worked away predominantly. So my mum was obviously trying to provide at home, have to make my own dinners, my own lunches, that sort of stuff. And then almost went to jail, big wake-up call. And then I got into the industry really off the back of that, because the reason why that happened is I was still feeling quite defensive as a result of like kind of people picking on me, even though I was trying to like showcase myself as this kind of bigger, boisterous, more like in control guy. And then, I ended up going down this kind of self-development route, like self-exploration probably more than anything else. It was like refinding myself, the person I'd lost, and learning how to apply him to what you now do and like be fully authentic in it and like fully embrace it. Instead of feeling like it was a bad thing being that way when I was younger, because the good thing that it gave me was like a lot of introspection. I spent a lot of time on my own, like really thinking, analysing, looking at things, it made me very reflective. And then in my teenage years, I'd done none of that. So like even when I was caught in shit, I was like, how do I get out of this shit? Because I was always then just like, let's get around more people, let's get validated by more people, let's put myself in other situations. Whereas now I value like that quiet time so much, and I have done for so long. So got into the industry because I wanted to go on a path of like self-development, but it was also like a piece of like validation. I'd seen people see me as the kid that was a fucking nobody, and then turning into someone that people really didn't like because I was putting on a bit of a mask and people could tell it wasn't me. And then I felt like I had to be validated as the person that I now am and who I'm trying to become, which came with its own kind of like self-esteem issues. Like I ended up competing in bodybuilding when I was 2021, ended up with a binge eating disorder off the back of that, due to low self-worth, low self-esteem. Had to rehabilitate that for probably the best part of 2.5 years, and then finally found myself, and was like, right, I now realise the extent of the work that needs to be done sometimes on people's minds. How can I impact this ethically inside the industry by approaching things in a completely different way than kind of most coaches wanted to? Because I think in this day and age, a lot of coaches like kind of try and sidestep from the hard work and are like, that this is training, this is nutrition. Like I don't do any of that deep stuff, because they think in some cases they're not qualified, but you're actually qualified if you're skilled in coaching to go as deep as you need to go before it obviously treads that line of being unethical. And there's a lot that you can deal with as a coach. And I really believe if people are paying like a high ticket price for coaching or whatever it is that you're charging, you should always aim to do things right. Like even when I was charging £100 a month for clients way back when, it was still, I'm going to do the best that I can with the knowledge that I have. Yeah. So, and now I'm here. So I'm now 31. I've got 2 businesses, and I've went through quite a drastic evolution, I would probably say, in the last 5-6 years especially. Yeah,
without a doubt, mate. I mean, so much to unpack there, bro. Firstly, thank you for being such an open book on all of that as well, mate, because I think there's a lot of people that will naturally resonate with it, even from an aspect of like a couple of guys that spring to mind as well, that when I was coming out of school, they were like teetering around jail time or teetering around like being on, having to go on trial or whatever it is. And a couple of them I've seen like seriously turn themselves around and start their own business and stuff like that. And I'm curious about, like, can you take us back to like that actual moment of what was going through your mind? Because anyone I've spoke to about it, it's like the whole world feels like it's crumbling around you. But there's some sort of art of reborn that happens afterwards. Like, what was actually happening at that time for you?
Yeah, it's funny because like I feel as though I was in that kind of mindset of like, I'm really hard done by here. Like I genuinely got found not guilty for it because I hadn't actually committed the crime, but my mum always said like, you fly with the crows, you can shop with the crows. So I felt like hard done by, but then I started to realise that every time I put myself in situations that myself, the person who I really am, shouldn't have been in, that there was consequences to my actions. And I started to see that repeatedly over the years. And at that point, I took the opportunity to reflect, and I was like, this is the universe telling me, because I do believe in a higher faith. I'm not really religious, but I've got faith. I don't really know where that faith lies. I've got faith in myself. I've got faith that things will go the right way if you do the right things and you do things in the name of humanity almost. And the good things will always be returned to you if you do good things. So I do have that kind of faith. And when I was reflecting at that point, I was like, this is me being taught a serious lesson of like, you've lost yourself through this process. You've now got a second chance. Don't fuck this shit up.
No, I hear that, mate. And I think as well, it's like my first like friend / mentor that I was growing up with. I remember I used to go to him with problems or challenges or things that would happen, and I'd almost be like, why me? Or how is it always me? And he'd kind of look at me and be like, kind of like shrug his shoulders and kind of not really say anything. And I used to think like, this bastard doesn't even engage in any conversation, doesn't help me, doesn't ask me any questions. It was just kind of like, shrugged the shoulders. And I remember thinking like, why, like what, but again, back to the victim, like why is it me? Why is this stuff happening to me? And I remember one of the times something happened in school that felt so, like you're saying, out with, I didn't do anything wrong, I didn't believe I did anything wrong, but I was flying with the wrong people. And it was like, I'd put myself in that environment. And I remember going to him again, and I'm just shrugging his shoulders. And I remember in that moment realizing like, I'm choosing to be there, and there's always multiple steps before that I could avoid or take a different approach, which sounds like it was the same for yourself.
Oh, 100%. I was a wee fanny.
That was class. So one of the things I'm curious about as well, see, I usually have a notepad in front of me. I've realised I've left it in my bag.
It's fine, mate. I know you can raw dog it.
But I can raw dog it for sure. One of the things I was curious about, you said 2021?
Yeah.
was the kind of time where you went through almost like that kind of like binge eating side of things, which isn't too long ago. You said about 2.5 years. It's interesting because one of the things that stood out to me there was like there's so many times where people will naturally have a huge glow up, quote unquote. Like for yourself, it was from like the ages of like 18, 19, 20 onwards up into that would have been like what, you're 27, 28. Remember that time period?
24, 25.
24, 25, 20, 21?
21, so 21, 22, sorry, 2021 when I struggled with the binge eating disorder, then overcame about 24.
Okay, first. Oh, so you're age 21?
Yeah, age 21.
Okay, I thought you were saying 2021 like the year. I was
No.
like,
You were saying it's not that long ago. I was like, 10 years. If you want to subjectively say that's not that long ago. Aye. Not like 20/21.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. I was like, 3 years, and then you said 2.5 years as well. I thought, wow, that's actually fucking not that long ago at all.
Yeah, like, you alright, bro?
Yeah, I was like, fairs. Nah, just completely sidetracks the question, to be fair. But yeah, I guess like you could unpack some of that as well. What was that like for yourself? You said that you kind of went down a rabbit hole of researching, looking into obviously what actually comes with also the kind of bodybuilding side of things as well. Yeah, what was that like during that time?
Really eye-opening, mate. Really eye-opening, and I think like there's so many reasons that Built to Coach, one of the businesses, which I'm sure we'll come on to, like became what it is today. But at that point, because I realised that, right, I've now got myself in incredible shape. Like I was like the most in shape out of anyone in my hometown. Like at my age, you know what I mean? Went from the guy that was shite at sports to now being in great shape that people wanted help with their bodies with and all of that sort of stuff. And then inside I was fucking hollow, man. You know what I mean? I had nothing. Like I felt like even though everyone thought I had everything, I had absolutely nothing. So I think for me, when I started the binge, like it's funny because the binge eating disorder stuff was like, it was like an approved binge, right? So like there's different forms of like binges that you can get, and this was like a planned, like approved binge. So like because I was like in bodybuilding when I was going through my bulks, I would be like, right, Sunday's cheat day, right? Not cheat meal, cheat day. And mate, I would eat upwards of like 8,000 calories to the point where I made myself like feel physically sick. Couldn't move, but then all week I'd purge. So I'd be like on the Stairmaster for an hour and a half every day, plus doing like 20,000 steps a day, plus training every single day, but plus like trying to juggle everything. So the awareness for me wasn't there initially. I was like, I was telling myself a story, like to protect myself the truth. And then when I realised like actually what I was struggling with and what it was, I was like, well, this is a fucking problem. And I need to solve this. And it's funny because I always say, and we say this inside about the coach as well, both Jen and I, like the brain that created the problem also holds the solution. So I never went to therapy. I never sought help or advice from anyone. I literally went on a mission of like solving this thing on my own. And I did. And looking back now, it was primarily down to a few things, like, again, not moulding yourself into what people want you to be. Like showing people every side of you, like authentically, because you can even now, it's like you can show up in person as one individual, then you could show up in social media as someone completely different. So now I just like embrace it, like in all areas. Like if someone doesn't want to be around me, if someone doesn't like me, I really couldn't give a fuck. Like back then it was all about validation and like what other people thought of me. And that just comes from what I was void of when I was younger. I also found it quite difficult probably around relationships as well, and like rejection and feeling as though I was inadequate when it came to like intimate relationships and stuff. And also just thinking that I was fucking dafty, like obviously leaving school with like no qualifications, never really being that educated. Like when I went through speech therapy when I was younger, it was like, oh, you better watch, he's probably not going to be able to go far in life or like really do anything with his life because he's held back, because I wasn't able to communicate the same way as the other kids for probably the best part of like 3 or 4 years. And then a lot of teachers through school telling me as well, like, you're not going to be anything when you grow up, and if you continue acting like this. And obviously like they had a reason to say that. They weren't just being dicks. Like I was being a wee dick at times. So they were right to say it. But again, it's like it feeds into that confirmation bias of what you already know. And it just got to a point where I'd went through that prep, stood on stage, like 20 weeks of fucking intense prep, like literally gave my all to it to step on stage, and for someone within 2 minutes to say, nah, you're not good enough. That was like the tipping point for it. So it was like, right, how can I really understand my values? How can I really embrace who I am and show it? How can I take the focus away from nutrition and training of being like how to control my body and instead how to nourish myself, and see like the kind of instrumental value rather than the ornamental value, and very much like give yourself permission to be compassionate to yourself, and like give your like it's funny because like you easily give yourself permission to fucking criticize yourself the dogs come home, but it's the opposite when you're trying to show yourself a bit of compassion. I was like, I don't need to show myself compassion in the sense of like self-compassion means doing the work that you're avoiding. It was like I actually literally had to give myself a pat in the back and be like, you're actually doing better than you think that you are. You have to remove these expectations from yourself. So a lot of that time went into like a lot of meditation work, a lot of journaling work, a lot of conversations with the right people around me, cutting myself off from a lot of people that weren't good for me, ending like some relationships that didn't align with the way that people were treating me and all of that sort of stuff. And the more that I started doing that, the more I started progressing, the more it started to recover. Even now, like when you've suffered from something like that, there's still triggers. Like so now, say if I eat too much and I get that feeling of fullness, like from when I was binging at the time, the only way to make myself feel better would be to eat more food, because you go through this kind of like vicious cycle of like you feel shit, so you eat the food because it gives you like it's like the most accessible form of dopamine known to man. You eat the food, it's pleasurable for the best part of a couple of minutes. You then feel even worse after it. And then the only thing to cure how you feel at that point is to then engage in the food again. So even now I can feel that impulse if I eat too much to want to eat more. So there's like, you can recover from it, but there's still aspects there that are quite triggering that you just need to kind of stay on top of consistently.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense, man. It's something that like, I mean, there's so many things to unpack. One was, you said there about cutting off relationships, friendships, etc. I think that is a huge component as well for a lot of young entrepreneurs out there, where they're in a time where they've got friends that they went to school with, that were in the same football team with, that they've didn't choose in the first place. And then they've got this kind of like uncharted territory and they venture it into where they don't really know many people, or they maybe know like one person or two people. Like, I've got a couple of people from school, for example, that one of the guys came up to me in the gym not too long ago as well, chats away to me. And it's like, I know that he sees me as probably the only outlet to speak to about business or the shit that he wants to do. And I know what it's like to stay in that kind of like limbo period. What was your experience during that, like being in that limbo period, and how did you get out of it?
Yeah, that limbo period was just like, I'm going to, probably what people refer to as monk mode now. You know, like monk mode, which I don't fully agree with, because I think like you're switching off again parts of like your values and the elements of yourself that need to be nourished. And I think that that's like quite an unrealistic containment to create, because then when you go back into real life and then you can't sustain what you built in monk mode, it's almost like, how do I now replicate this? Like it was like COVID, like everyone could get their head down and work during COVID, but then when life returns to life, it's more difficult. So for me, it wasn't like intentional monk mode, but it was just like, I'm going to capitalize on this time by working on myself, working on my business, working on the right relationships in my life, like connecting with the right people, traveling wherever I need to go to improve my craft, and being around more people like me that have similar values, that have a similar vision, that have similar ethics and morals. And that's basically what I did. Like for a number of years, it was just like traveling up and down the country, different courses, being around different people, different coaches, going to different talks with people in like the psychology, like circle and stuff like that, the coaching circles, and just like, how can I understand more about life as a whole, the human brain, like the body? Because one thing that we've asked this a couple of times, we've delivered talks for Built to Coach, and the question we've asked a couple of times is like, how do you know that someone's changed a belief? And the feedback we get from coaches all the time is when you can see that they've achieved a tangible outcome. And I always turn around and we usually put like pictures side by side with this, and it's a picture of me shredded on stage, then it's a picture of me 3 stone heavier, like literally like carrying a ton of body fat, in both pictures struggling with a binge eating disorder, because the first year after I had the binge eating disorder, I thought the only way to cure it in the second year was to compete again. So I hold up and I go, well, if that's the truth and you can see a tangible change in someone's body, how is it here that I held the same beliefs about myself even though I look completely different? And this is where, especially, probably not to digress too much, why we're on such a mission inside the industry to deliver effective coaching, because if that's what coaches are basing like results off of, especially when it comes to change in behaviours, change in beliefs, just because someone's achieved like a transactional surface level outcome without actually picking up on the signs throughout that someone could be damaging themselves in a greater way, then you're not really doing right by the person. Just because they think the physical result's the best, you need to be skilled enough to identify what they actually need.
I can already feel from just you talking about it, you spoke a lot about values, morals, even just what you're touching on there. one of the things we discussed beforehand was that there's quite a lot of individuals that I've seen recently evolve into a position of basically being a coach prior and then now want to coach coaches.
Yeah.
And I'm realizing very quickly just through, I mean, like what we're 20 minutes in there or thereabouts, and I can tell already why you're doing it. And it's when I compare that to majority of other coaches that I see, you're someone that's clearly massively driven by values and impact and wanting to genuinely make a difference.
Yeah.
And that when it comes to majority of the other stuff I see, it's around revenue goals, scaling from just basically like revenue, freedom, anything from that kind of perspective. Whereas I'm getting the impression that you're really wanting to lean into basically living by what you see as your values and changing from that perspective. Is that the right observation?
Mate, 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's all like that's who I was always authentically, and like as I said, like embracing every part of myself now. Like that's who I am. That's who I've always been. Like I've got like key principles. I put a post up last week on social media, and I was like, if you're a coach that does these things, we'll never work together. Like the first thing on it is like say please and thank you. Like see, even if someone's paying me for a service, I say please and thank you. That's not much to ask.
Yep.
See, if you're just demanding things, you can genuinely fuck off.
Yep.
Like I would rather you not pay me and go take your money elsewhere and invest in someone else to not have common decency, like best placed in the conversation and in the room.
Yep.
Like my parents taught me better than that. I would hope other people's parents would teach them better than that.
Yep.
Like I think in the pursuit of business and entrepreneurship, people lose a lot of themselves through it. And I'm never going to forget like where I came from and what the principles to my way of life are. And a lot of it, especially when I was younger, like I was always that kind of sweet kid that even though I was going through so much and like so many challenges myself, I would always be the one to write my mum and dad like letters at Christmas because I couldn't communicate that would make them cry. I would always be the first person to like stand up, even though I was taking beatings consistently. If I seen another kid getting unfairly like beat on, I would be the one jumping in, even if I meant that I was taking another beating. I've always been very focused on do the right thing by people.
Yeah.
Like don't lose your humanity, don't lose like the best parts of yourself in pursuit of things that you're going to look back on and not really think played much relevance in your life at a time further down the line in your life, but seem to be the most important thing to you now. Yeah. And I think that's where a lot of people are also driven kind of like out emotion and like subjectivity rather than objectivity of the greater mission. And that's what I see amongst most coaches anyway, is like they don't have a mission because they're just trying to do the things to achieve the goals, to validate how they feel about themselves, rather than actually having a clear vision and a clear mission. And you'll hear that all the time. Like even Phil will say that all the time. You have to have a clear vision. You have to have a clear mission. You need to know why you're doing things. If you're getting bored in business, you're probably not aligned long term, which is 100% true. But a lot of these coaches are just running, I believe, from their own struggles and their own challenges and trying to cover that up with surface level metrics that make them feel better to then show to other coaches to be like, validate me.
Yeah.
You know?
Have you felt that? That's why I have a notepad to make sure that.
Do you want to grab the notepad?
That's all good. I'm raw dogging it. You say I can raw dog it, I fucking raw dog it. Have you ever felt like as you started to recognise this, like aligning yourself with your values, your morals, making sure that when you come into the world of business, for example, I've definitely felt like as I've came in, I've seen people that I've admired and respected operate very differently from me. And then as a result, I question whether or not I'm operating properly to succeed in business, even though there is no proper way to operate. Like, did you deal with that as well? And then as a result, was there a turning point where you just went full tilt, leaned into this, pursuit of just being purely aligned with your values?
Oh, mate, 100%. I think the only way you can get to this point is if you've done those things. Yeah. I don't think you fall into this. Like, I'm a big believer in, like, I always take risks. Like, I'm always a risk taker. I always think, like, people have assumptions about what's going to happen if they take a risk, right? Whereas I'm like, right, that's my, even if I've got those assumptions, right? Even if I've got the assumptions, I'll say to myself, well, what's the opposite of that assumption here? Like, if that assumption, the thing that I believe to be true, could happen, the opposite of that could also happen.
Yeah.
So you don't actually know which one's true until you fucking try. So the only way is really to make mistakes. And you make mistakes and you fail until you finally succeed. And I've probably not even succeeded yet still. And I'm just continuously failing forward to find out like where I should really be. Yeah. And will I ever truly be successful?
Yeah.
Who knows?
It's a fair enough observation, mate, because I think it's, even just from, I probably went, 2 years there without a coach, but like in terms of working with Phil now. Yeah. And I felt like during that time was the most that I actually truly leaned into what I felt like was best.
Yeah.
Which I found incredibly interesting because during that time period, it was like we made the biggest amount of growth in the shortest time frame.
Yeah.
And it's one of those where I'd been following Phil for 2 years, and the reason why I opted in with Phil is because I felt like he was actually aligned with those components.
Yeah.
Whereas, like you're kind of touching on, like you come into business and you automatically assume that everyone that's earning more than you knows better than you, and then as a result, you fall victim to like every piece of advice, which every advice is different.
Yeah.
And every advice doesn't have the same context as everyone else. So it's like they're not in your fucking business. So like, how can they fully give you the best piece of advice without being like side by side with you along that actual journey? Which, yeah, like I think I'm seeing, even just from myself, like when that kind of turning point starts to come, which for me was probably like experiences and results. Like I started to get tangible results and also feel super aligned.
Yeah.
With the decisions I was making. And also as well, when you're super aligned, you make decisions faster, with less friction, with less worry.
Yeah,
as well.
because you know it's the right thing.
Yeah.
So you're like, I don't give a fuck what happens here because I don't think anything bar what I think will happen will actually happen.
Yeah, it's fucking mental, mate. But I think it's something like confidence installed in young entrepreneurs is definitely something that's been front of mind for me because I've realised that the most growth I've seen for myself has been when I've actually leaned into my own intuition, which you heavily, like for me, I heavily doubted up until you get that positive reinforcement either through results or through just genuinely how you fucking feel, which most of the time, like you're saying, if coaches are running away from that feeling all the time and they're not journaling, they're not meditating, they're not even having time to actually sit and be present with their own thoughts, which to a lot of people will sound woo-woo as fuck.
Yeah.
If they're not sitting there in that shit, they won't actually know like what is right and wrong. Even like Christmas coming up, that Christmas break, man, me and like even last year, every team member came back with like this new fucking lease of life, new approach, new way of wanting to do something, and it's like that's because you actually had time to sit and process that shit.
Yeah, and like it's something I always say is like my favourite pastime is to sit in a fucking dark room with my own thoughts for like 15-20 minutes.
Yeah.
Like if I've got a bit of time to kill and I'm like, what do I do? I'm not going to scroll Instagram, I'm going to turn the lights off. And I'm just going to lie down. I'm just going to like digest what's going on, you know, because you need to, like people who genuinely don't have that time or people that genuinely are just avoiding what's going to crop up in that time. They don't want to see it, they don't want to hear it, they don't want to listen to it. And it's actually where you're going to find most of the valuable pieces of yourself that need to be improved to actually overcome what stands before you. Yeah.
Even one of the ones that springs out of mind, like Hormozy's fucking sprung on the scene the last like year to 2 years, being fucking everywhere. It's very clear his brand, what he stands for, and what he heavily leans into, which seems to be in a very unapologetic and seamless manner. Like he seems to lean into everything about his brand in such an easy manner. Even now he's doing more interviews from an aspect of like the camera's just rolling and he's got like 10 school winners, whatever.
Yeah.
You can see him just raw dogging 20 minutes of just like exactly how he's thinking, his exact thoughts. And it's like, when I think there was a podcast I listened to from him where he spoke about when he was finishing up with Gym Launch, he had to go a year where he couldn't do anything.
That's right.
In it because the valuation was being made or whatever to make sure that the company could operate without him.
Yeah.
And he was like, I had a year where I literally had to I couldn't do any other ventures.
Yeah.
And I couldn't do it in the business, so I had to just sit and fucking think and like write. And I was like, it's so mad because you see someone like that who has so much fucking conviction and belief in like, and telling the way that he talks, he truly believes everything that he's saying. And it's like, that probably stemmed massively from that year of actual space.
100%. Mate, I think genuinely if every young entrepreneur had a couple hours a week where they spend that time, like the change that would generate and their happiness, their fulfillment, their success would massively skyrocket. Massively. But people just think doing more equals more. Yeah. Never the case. Yeah. You find out the hard way.
Yeah, no, you definitely do, mate. You definitely do. Because it's even like simple components, like you grew up in a family that was like super hard working. Your dad worked away. It's like if I look at my mum as well, my mum worked her fucking arse off, but never had more than $3,500 a month.
Aye.
Do you know what I mean? And you compare that to like there's business owners that are absolute fucking badness, obviously. As well.
Aye, doing as much work than like more work than they're fucking the size of their pinky finger. You know what I mean? It's like they wake up, they're like that, they tap a couple of keys, and then they're like that. Fucking just made 6 figures today.
You probably see that quite a lot in Dubai. Yeah.
Oh mate, to be fair, like it's funny. I don't socialise that much in Dubai purely just because since I moved there, I've been working my tits off. Yeah. And again, you'll probably tell by my values. like I've got people always think I look dead angry, right? But it's just my face. It's just like a mad racing bitch face, right? Just a mad racing bitch face. But I think it gets worse like if I'm around people that I just like my threshold can't manage.
Yeah.
You know, people teaming here again, it's like I'm not just drawn towards my mission like in business. Like I genuinely, if I'm around people and I see them acting a certain way or speaking about people a certain way, it really rubs me the wrong way.
Yeah.
And I can't really hide that.
Yeah.
But don't get me wrong, I've still got pals over there, and I've still got people like I can turn to, I can enjoy a bit of time out with, but I've not really went out my way to generate new relationships in a sense. Like I've tried a couple of times and I've came home thinking, what the fuck was that?
Yeah.
You can imagine the type of people they are, and don't get me wrong, great for connections, and there probably will be more connections I do look for out there.
Yeah.
But I'm at that stage in my life where I'm like, I don't really need any more friends in a sense. Connections, yes. Opportunities, yes, probably from a selfish reason to like elevate my mission overall and like have a greater impact, and do the same in return for anyone that can open doors for me. But friendships, if they come, they come. I'm not really kind of chasing them as such.
You do kind of get to that stage where, like, I think I had this conversation, I can't remember who it was with, but I was like, if I was to schedule a dinner with every person that I would love to spend some time with now, I'd be like 4 or 5 months every day. And it's like, you get, it does get to a stage where it's like, it really needs to happen quite organically and free, like, because you get to a stage where you don't need to look for it anymore.
Aye.
So when you go out and you feel like you're forcing it, and then it just becomes a waste of fucking time, it further reinforces that you should just
100%. You're like, I could have been doing so much more with that time there, man. I just think about like fucking get into my WhatsApp and there's going to be like 40 new messages. And I'm like, I could have spent that time getting back to folk.
Nah, definitely align with that, mate. That's why, like, I think once again, when you're aligned with your values, you attract the right people. Anyways, you like this relationship's happened super organic, and it's like there's so much of that, mate. That's like when it probably relates back to that loneliness period as well, where you're trying so hard to find other people that are like you, and as a result, you spend all that fucking time trying to lean into that, and you barely find anyone. Then you find a couple of people, and then you fucking blink, and you've got like a full fucking WhatsApp of like 40 cunts that are all like just as dialed as you, want to just know as much as you, and it's like, yeah, it's fucking mad, mate. It just happens like that.
Like, how the fuck did this happen?
Yeah, it's mental, mate. See, from Dubai, I was curious, what was the reason for you moving over in the first place?
Yeah, so we didn't want to go to Dubai in the first place. We actually moved to Spain. Okay. So we moved to Spain to trial it on a 3-month basis, and while we were there, Brexit happened.
Okay.
So there was visas for anyone that doesn't know. There was basically like if you were in the EU, you could go and live anywhere you wanted. Yep. Like no visas needed. And then Brexit happened, and that wasn't the case. Wow. So we were in Spain, and then Brexit happened, so we had to leave at a particular time to move back. So like basically we were testing the period to see like as a result of Brexit, because Brexit had already been announced. It was then this is the date we're officially leaving. So like anyone that's been in these countries for this amount of time need to leave and come back to the UK to then be able to get a visa. And the visa process to get into Spain, because there was no visas made at that time, because obviously Brexit was happening, no one knew like how to put the visas together. So there was only something called a non-lucrative visa. Non-lucrative visa is usually for like pensioners or people who have like completely like moved away from their companies. Yeah. So in order to get a non-lucrative visa, you basically had to like have your company still in the UK if you wanted to draw down dividends, but you had to have someone else as the kind of director. Yeah. Like, so it would have to be like a family member, or if you had a staff member you really trusted. But also you needed to show that you had enough funds to live there. Yeah. The issue was like we had enough funds, but my wife had quite a job at the time as well. So I've always been the breadwinner at home, right? Yep. And she's never really had to like fucking save tons of money or that. So it was the case of like when you're putting the application through, you both, because you're not married at this stage, you both need to show you've got the funds to manage yourself for like 3 years. Yeah. And then she didn't have it, but I could transfer her the money. Yeah. And then they were like, no, but it'll pick up in that and they'll see that you sent that. Mm-hmm. So they were like, you can still go through this full process. You can apply for this visa. You can, and you had to like pay to get it all translated and all that shit. I think for the two of us, it was coming to like $7,000, but you could pay $7,000, they could turn around and say no. Wow. So we were like, don't really want to move back to the UK. I was like, paying $7,000, just get a no. I was like, I don't mind taking a risk, like I said before, but this one is very like 50-50, very 50-50. So where else could we go? So we looked at Dubai, and we just ended up saying, yeah, why not? Like we'll move over, flew the dog over, and that's us been there just over 2 years.
Amazing. And what was I've said to you before, Jack had like a million questions, mate. So I imagine there's probably a bunch of young entrepreneurs there that are seeing other, maybe people out there in Dubai, people they admire per se, maybe creating some content as well. And they're thinking, potentially go out there. A lot of times it's for like the tax benefits, is what majority of people are thinking. Plus maybe the weather. But I also looked and it was like 44 degrees in the summer.
Mate, horrendous. So bad. So bad. The thing is, like, I hate walking in it in the summer, but because I run, I'll run in it because it's like, I don't know what it is logically. It's like, well, if I walk and I start sweating my pan in, I can't really justify that. But if I'm running and already sweating, then it's all right. You know what I mean? So, so the kind of process, like I kind of got in touch with coaches that I kind of already knew over there. But you basically, there's companies that get you a visa and get your trade license. Your trade license is like the license you need to operate your company inside of the UAE. And then you need a visa. So your visa is the kind of Emirates ID thing. Have I got it in my pocket? I can get a wee swatch yet. Have I got it? Where is it? It's over here.
Be in your wallet.
And in case you want to show it to the camera. Need to steal my details. So you get this Emirates ID, and when you go and you get your ID, they put you through like your fingerprints and all that. So like they're up to their eyeballs in security. So you do your fingerprints, your facial recognition. You have to go for like a medical and all that sort of stuff, and that gives you the right to work. So you pay for that every year. Well, you pay for the trade license every year. I got a 3-year visa, I think it was, and the trade license. The trade license every year is about $5,000. And then you renew the visa every like 2 or 3 years, depending on whatever option you go for. So got in contact with the company. They basically do it all for you. You just have to go in, sign documents and all that sort of stuff. So like we went over in April of 22 to go through that process so that we could then move in the October. But I paid for the fast track because like we were going over for 2 weeks, but the normal service could take like a month. And my wife couldn't get the month off, and she was like, I'm not going for 2 weeks then coming home and you're staying there for 2 weeks. No chance. How do you get an extra 2 weeks there? So I was like, right, we'll just fast track it. So we fast tracked it, got everything back, and mate, that's pretty much it. Then you open your bank accounts and all that sort of stuff. They've obviously just implemented corporation tax, and you pay VAT for people that you sell to inside the UAE now. The corporation tax is only like 8 or 9%, I think it is, but you need to be making like 375,000 dirhams a year profit, which is the equivalent right now with the exchange rate of like 70 grand, maybe. Maybe slightly less or just slightly more, depending on the variation. So
you pay 8% once you go above the 70k mark on anything above 70k, or just the full
profit?
Okay.
Anything above. Anything above. So it's actually, but again, they're not going to see this, are they? I think they're quite flexible in what you can put through the accounts still, you know what I mean? So you can kind of get away with stuff. It's the first year as well, so I don't really think they'd have like ironed everything out just yet. But saying that, it's also Dubai, so they might help. So yeah, mate, we got all that sorted, flew the dog over, and yeah, we've been there since.
In terms of the like logistical, like one of the questions Jack asked was like moving your cash from your bank to their bank and all that. Like is it a company that handles that? Is it like, do you have to go through it with like, what's that actually even like?
Well, I never moved, so like I still had my businesses in the UK until I officially moved them over to the UAE. So I just paid my tax in the UK and then drew down the rest of the money and paid self-assessment on it, and then just started as a fresh in Dubai, pretty much, because you can still pay obviously with your UK cards over there. So when we were moving, we were like buying furniture, fridges, all of that sort of stuff. I would just pay for it my UK card, and then you can set up a Stripe, but the Stripe is different. So this is a good thing for entrepreneurs to know if they do move. And see, the thing is, like, see, after the recent bill came out, and like how again entrepreneurs probably within the bracket of earnings of like 5 to 20k, maybe 30k just now, they're getting hammered on that new bill that just came out. With like corporation tax, like yes, the VAT thresholds increase slightly, but anyone knows that when you go over the VAT threshold, you need to smash through it to see the profitability of it anyway. So, what was the question again?
Just that it was from a perspective of like moving the bank.
Moving the bank. I'm fucking massively digressed, but no, I never actually moved anything over. But Stripe, so Stripe, you actually have to create a brand new Stripe account because they need your trade license and all that. So you need to. If you want all of your current data moved over and paying clients moved over, you need to like email Stripe and get them to move them onto your new Stripe account. Or you would have to literally go back through every client you've got and gather all their card details.
That'd be a fucking mission.
Because when I moved over, someone said, aye, your Stripe's all sound. And then when I started the process, I went to him and I was like, why did you not tell me that you actually have to set up a new Stripe and then get all of this transported over and all that. And he was like, oh, I thought you'd just figure it out. And I was like, aye, but it's now taking me more time. So, like, if I want to know something, give me the fucking details.
Yeah,
you know?
no, I hear that. And what's the VAT now? You said that the VAT's changed?
Oh, the VAT. So the VAT, you pay the VAT on anyone that you sell services to in the UAE.
Oh.
If you're in the UAE, I think is it 7%, 5%, 5%, 5%. Because that's the thing. Like, see, like electronics, so cheap.
Yeah.
Like Dubai's expensive, right? But electronics, I think your 65-inch TV that we bought was like 300 quid.
That's fucking mad.
Mental. And if you choose not to live there, because I think we probably will go back to Spain at some point, in a couple of years' time. It's kind of like where I'd rather be. I'd rather be closer to home because I'm having to fly back quite a lot for business opportunities now. So I'd rather be closer to home. My missus can fly her pals out, or mum out, my parents and all that can come out. It's not as far to travel. And there is now visa options. They've got the nomad visa now in Spain. So I would much rather do that. And you can do that easily. So like if you keep your business in Dubai and live anywhere bar your home country, you just need to be back in Dubai once every 6 months to keep the visa valid. You can literally just walk in, land, walk in, walk back out, get back in a plane.
That's mad. Do you think that'll ever change in the future?
I don't think so, because it benefits their economy.
Yeah.
So I don't see it. I only see it continuing to grow.
First, that's fucking mad. Yeah, I mean, I think that's got everyone probably got their questions answered when it comes to that side of things, mate. Because it's definitely been something curious. I've met a couple that have moved over there, and they all kind of just say the same thing. You just pay somebody and they just sort it all for you, and it's like it probably feels like such a big jump to so many people. But then when you break down, I remember chatting to Phil about it, and it was like if we're paying 22% corporation tax, 20% in VAT. If we're charging business owners, like a lot of young entrepreneurs are less than the VAT threshold. Yeah. So we're just charging VAT for fuck all's sake, really. Yeah. And I mean, we're not getting it. They're not getting it. It just goes to the government anyway. So it's like, it ends up stacking up, mate, to like, well, you're paying fucking 42% on a 122%, whatever, VAT threshold. But the VAT for a lot of clients just gets fucking disappeared. You don't see it. They don't see it.
I know.
And it can be a fucking big chunk to quite a lot of people as well, man.
Mate, 100%. Like, I remember, like, the year we moved, like, that was a big thing. It was, like, the amount that VAT, like, every quarter VAT coming out and then corporation tax coming out. I think that final year, I only had the one business at the time as well. I think I spent 116 grand on VAT and tax. Yeah. Which was disgusting. Yeah. And I was like, what even is this? Why am I even here? Yeah. You know what I mean? And that was in the process then moving to Dubai, getting married and all that as well. I was like, I could be doing better for that money. You know what I mean? I could have been in my pocket.
Then you weigh up like 5%, like 8% VAT on some charges. It's like that difference is fucking mad.
Huge. And the thing is, it's not even like we've got some Dubai clients, but not as many as we still have in the UK because our presence is still really here. Yeah. That market will break into in due course.
Yeah, which makes a lot of sense. I'm mindful that we might end up not even getting on to like your actual business as a whole. There's so much to digress. We could do fucking multiple
podcasts.
Every time you're here, we'll just hop on and just do a couple of rounds. Okay, so obviously, like you kind of touched on, you started with like coaching other individuals. What was the kind of like? What was the niche or like what is it your?
Yep. Coaching? So the niche was like taking you from like average to. It wasn't called average to unstoppable, but it was that's pretty much summarizes it. Because of the way that we coach, because it is all brain focused and behavior focused. We were literally taking people that were 20 stone, whipping off 9 stone, and take them from not moving any like throughout the day to running half marathons and marathons and all that. Like literally taking a brain based approach to everything that we do, and meeting the person where they're at, understand the person, understanding like what success looks like to them. Their beliefs and behaviours holding them back, and really doing the work that, as I said, many other coaches wouldn't want to do. Yeah. And it's funny because it's like other coaches would then ask me, how do you get that result? How do you retain clients for that long? I would tell them, and then it's like, aye, but have you ever seen that? You ever seen that meatloaf meme where it's like, I would do anything, but I won't do that. It's always what reminds me. It's like, don't ask me, and then for me to tell you. And then you don't like it, so then it's like, I'm just not going to listen to that, and then end up in the same position anyway. Yeah. So,
what is always a reason for not wanting to?
Too much work.
Yeah.
Too much work, or like I don't know how to. That's why Built to Coach was created. So yeah, it was that, and then it moved more kind of gradually into just performance. So like marathons, ultra marathons, high roxies, like all of that sort of stuff. Still have like general pop clients, if you want to call them that now. Still got like 45, 50 of them. Yep. So still working with them behind the scenes. Obviously, I've got 3 of my team members as well. So it's it's still satisfying, like touching base with those guys, those girls, like helping them. But obviously, we're staring into like a new path now.
Yeah. What is this new path now? If you want to touch on it.
Yep. So we've got two businesses, Built to Coach, and then Built for Life is still the business name of the new launch that we've just done. But Built to Coach is it's the first industry's, or it's that industry's first coaching course for coaches that teaches them about brain-based behavior and neuroscience, and basically how you can create a program specific to your niche that generates consistent results time and time again, because it measures people on physical and psychological competencies and gives you the interventions, frameworks, skills that you need at every point of the behavior change process to best serve and support that client. So it's basically like the way that we've always coached, just put into an entire course.
Yep.
Jen's an accredited coach. She comes from a background with like psychology, neuroscience, that sort of stuff. And she's worked with me inside the Built for Life with like the general pop clients for a while. And she actually was a client of mine on the gym floor.
Wow.
And she came from a really difficult, challenging background. Anyone that listens to any of our other podcasts will know, like, she came from a very like abusive background. She speaks about it very intensely. So she was like abused for 6-7 years.
Wow.
And ate herself all the way up to like 20 odd stone. And no PT. Every PT told her, you don't want this enough. And I remember she said, I knew you were the PT for me on the gym floor when one day we were leaving and you said, can you give me 10 reasons or all the reasons that you want to lose this weight? Because she came to me wanting to lose weight for her wedding, right? And it was like, can you give me reasons for why you want to lose this weight? And she gave me like 2. And I said, could you give me all the reasons for why staying the same would be better? And she done, I could give you 40. She went away and literally wrote a list of it, 40. And it's like, I feel safer in a bigger body. I feel less desirable in a bigger body, because when she had been abused previously, the abuser was like, are you trying to make yourself look better for other men? And all that sort of stuff. So this is the bit the coaches don't take into consideration. Yep. They don't realise the depths of what people have been through when they're coaching them. And that probably, that you talked about instinct and intuition before, coaches massively turn that off. And it's funny because Jen always said that she used to think I was just a big chicken and rice bastard. When she first seen me, she was like, I'm not going to that cunt. But everyone was like, no, he's the best. And she was like, nah, I'm not going to him. I'm not going to him. He doesn't work with people like me. And then that just turned into like a beautiful relationship over time that then obviously went from her being my client to then working for me to having a huge impact with what she does, and realising the extent of her skill set, and then being like, this is something the industry ultimately needs. And she'd built a good reputation because Ed connected her to Joe Parrish as well, and she worked in Joe's community for a while. But then it was like, we know that we could do this better, the two of us, than she could do building in someone else's program type of thing. So that's the other business. Then Built for Life, off the back of Built to Coach, is now business and personal and business development for coaches, all focused around them as people, their values. Like, it's funny, like all the sales calls that I've had since starting this, people say the same thing. It's like, yes, I want to make more money, and yes, that's been a huge focus in business, but I became so disillusioned through kind of like what we spoke about before, through chasing money, that I've lost myself in the process. I'm not fulfilled in my job anymore. I'm not coaching as effectively. I actually feel some days that I want to throw it throw it in the back burner and just be like, forget about this fucking thing. So this is more about like doing things a very ethical way that meets the person where they're at, very proactive, very one-to-one. So like, people will get calls with me on a monthly basis, they'll get calls with Jen on a monthly basis, they'll have their personal standards looked after, but all of them are working in sync with one another. So if we're working in things in business, but then they're training themselves and burning themselves out to distract themselves from the work they have to overcome and do in business, we're on top of that. If then we are coming up against roadblocks in business, they have their coaching sessions with Jen, it's probably down to their own beliefs and behaviours about what needs to be implemented in business to be successful. So it's like they get a roadmap to overcome every obstacle that stands in front of them from the success they really want, and basically help them forge about an identity again outside of business that allows them not to have to think about business 24/7, because it's again something we get taught about all the time. So reactive, just looking at DMs all weekend, thinking about where the next sale is going to come from, not having clear strategies. And the thing is, it's not anyone's fault. I wouldn't even say it's other mentorship's fault, and it's not these people's fault. It's just that they've been sold, as everyone does, they promote their product, they've been sold the dream, what looks like the dream, and then it's just not been the suitable infrastructure that suits their needs. And this goes back to the individual's needs things, you know. So yeah, that's what we're on now, and it's purely just because from speaking to a lot of coaches who were skeptical about investing in Built to Coach, came a lot from past trauma from like business mentors. Some of them were some of the situations were very unethical, with like how things happened and what kind of unfolded. Some were just down to the fact that they didn't get the help and support they needed. And I understand it, because when you're buying into like a program with hundreds of people, let's say, and it's not kind of fixed in a one-to-one model for like coaching and just mentoring. So it's like, you are buying in for us to tell you what to do and you need to go and implement it. I think sometimes when people are like emotional and thinking, oh, this sounds amazing and I could achieve all this, they miss that part of you are just genuinely going to get told what to do. You're going to have some support, but it is generally down to you. That's what mentoring is at the end of the day.
100%, man. 100%. I mean, I'm going to give you a live, real-time example of who would have been your first client, which was Bex. Because I literally helped her with this. Probably a lot of your potential clients listening to this will literally be in the exact same position where I remember I went over for dinner one of the evenings before we stayed together, and she was just stressed, fretting, trying to she had a couple of clients churn. Then she was like trying to get these other couple of clients over the line. She was like knocking, she was coming up with different offers and all these different things. She was hitting all these DMs. She was posting 2 pieces of content a day. And I remember she was just stressing, and I was like, Bex, I know she won't mind me saying this. I was like, Bex, you're literally doing $5.5 a month, and you have done for the last 3 years. You're fucking chilling, man. You're 20, I think she was 23 at the time. I was like, you're 23, you're earning more than what fucking most people your age are. Like, why do you even want which was a revenue goal of $7,000 a month? I was like, why do you even want that? What do you actually want with $7,000 a month? And she's like, oh, it's just the goal that's been set because that's the next target. And I'm like, but why do you actually want it though? I was like, you're earning 5.5. You can do everything that you want with 5.5. You don't need any more. It's 100%. It's not like you're fucking the breadwinner for the gaff. It's not like we stay together. That's $5.5 just for you. You can just go and she'll have some expenses she'll book events for clients and get merch and all that kind of stuff. Pay for gym rent. I think at that time she was probably primarily online as well, so she didn't have really many stuff. And I'm like, why are you stressing so much? And it was just this structured belief of I need to hit that $7,000 or else I'm a fucking failure. And I remember saying to her, I was like, would you rather, because Bex is someone that likes to lean massively into her feminine intuition. I was like, would you prefer that I come over here 2-3 times a week? You cook me an amazing meal, which is class for me, obviously.
Selfishly.
I was like, you cook me an amazing meal. You're fucking present. You're not on your phone. We're watching, I don't know, fucking Monsters Inc. and some other Netflix series, and you're able to truly switch off without worrying all the fucking time. And you can get up tomorrow knowing that you're not dreading anything, that you've not got 3 sales calls that you need to fucking close, or else it's not going to be the best month ever. Would you prefer that and make $5,000 a month, which you've done for the last fucking 3 years in your sleep? Or would you rather hit $7,000 but be stressed out your fucking box?
To do it.
And she literally just in that moment was like, yeah, you're fucking right.
Aye.
And I imagine that's probably a lot of people that you're going to be running into, man.
100%. And it's I think when people get to, I've experienced it myself where I was making more money than I ever needed. And that's the thing people write in entrepreneurship, especially coaches. They don't know what the extra money is for, right? So if someone says to me, I want to earn $10,000 a month, I'm like, how much are you earning now? They're like 5. I'm like, okay, what's the extra $5,000 for? See if they can't answer that question. I'm like, that's not the goal. That is not the goal. We need to find purpose for what you want to achieve and why you want to achieve it. Because you can never fix anything internal with external outcomes. And most people are trying to do that. So that's such a good insight. And she's probably lucky to have had someone close to her that cares about her to give her that insight versus other people never really getting. And I think that's the other thing. Mentors and coaches think that they need to push people to get to that level because people will then stop paying them because they feel like that's where the value comes from. When that's not the case. We've worked with clients, sometimes Gen Pop clients for 4 years. And see, when you're going through processes of change, you go through different phases of uncertainty, ambiguity, volatility. You need to sit with it. Right? And see, the worst thing you can actually do as a coach or a mentor is try and push someone out of it. Because then it actually creates a bit of distrust because that person knows they're going through something. They need to figure out what that thing is. And when you think, oh, this person's going to leave, I need to try and offer more value just to keep them, then you're not actually doing or giving them what they really need, which is space. And because coaches especially like to be problem solvers, they don't like giving other people space because they think when other people think, they're just going to come to a conclusion of, I don't need this. When actually, again, pure assumption, and it never ends that way.
No, it's mad that you even say that as well, because I'm truly aligned with it from a position of like, I've got some clients that have been with me for 3-4 years that, I remember one of them, Connor Joss, which I fucking love to pieces. You'd get on like a house on fire with Connor Joss, by the way. He's like, mate, if I ever left and got a job, I'd still pay YNL.
I love people like that, man.
He's like, I'd fucking be there every Tuesday, mate. I'd take it in my break. I'd go, I'd fucking leave it. And the thing is, he's fucking crushing it. He'll never ever get a job. But it's like, just hearing that, like, it's one of those things as well where, like you're touching on, it's like, that relationship I've really built with Connor has been so authentic and natural and just like genuinely supporting and caring, which like Connor's still on like the fucking one of the like legacy pricing, so he's probably paying fuck all compared to like newer clients. And it's like, still, like you said, you live by what is you see as like a top level of value, and you do anything you fucking can to help people move forward.
100%. Connor, you sound like a sound cunt, but at the same time, you owe this man a drink if you don't like it, say pricing.
Oh, fucking hell, that's class.
I do. I love clients like that. It is just so organic, and the more that you don't like put them, or the more that you give them a poorer service just because they're on worse pricing. Because I know a lot of coaches will do that in some situations as well. Like, this person should be paying more. I never look at it from that perspective. I look at like income overall, and I'm like, that's the average of what everyone's paying. So if someone's paying less because they came on at like a legacy or a founder price, I'm like, I don't base it on what they're paying specifically. I just look at like, I'm getting paid this wage every month to help all of these people. Yeah,
100%, mate. I love that. And I think as well, like, see from a legacy pricing aspect, in case anyone's curious about why I've done that or Mark's done that from a position of pricing wise, it's the easiest way to increase pricing without you overthinking like crazy.
Yeah.
Like, I imagine you probably run a shit ton of clients experience that.
Mate, 100%. 100%, because obviously we're running founders prices for like Built for Life just now as well. And everyone keeps saying the same thing as well. We're just like, so cheap in comparison to what it could be. But also, I think many people pick prices out of their arse. Yeah. You know what I mean? So like, we actually think, what's the profit we want to turn on this? How much is this staff member going to cost for this thing? How much is that staff member going to cost for this thing? What's the overall infrastructure and systems cost? What's the cost that goes into marketing? What's the cost that's going into sales? What's the cost that's going into content? Yeah. And then it's like, what profit do we need to earn for me then to be able to reinvest into the business, to continue to invest in pensions and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. Pay myself, go on holidays, all the rest of it. So it's like, we work that out. But as well, it's always nice, like when you're coming into, like, I've been in this industry helping coaches for a long time anyway. It's just now doing it on my own. I need to still show that I can facilitate a result. Yeah. Which is also probably another reason for why I've done it.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And I think it's mad as well, like when you're lean more into the impact and like alignment with values, like the cash comes as a byproduct anyways.
Always.
And then also, like, you get to that threshold where you're making more than what you need. You start to scale from a team perspective, and then you just impact even more people, which makes you even more money. Yeah. And it's like the layers just coming. It's like you're saying, it's like when I like to think you touched on, it's like people will say, cool, I want to go from 5k to 10k, and you ask them why, and they don't have a single reason why. And it's like one of the exercises I've got in the habit of doing is like, when I think I shouldn't be doing something that actually feels out aligned with my values, there's usually a voice or a person or a experience.
100%. Yeah. Mate, always, because like that's the most common thing I say to people. I'm like, who's that coming from? Where's that coming from? Yeah. And it was even like, I was talking to a coach earlier on today who was talking about like apprehensions around like putting out something for Black Friday, let's say, for example. And the common issue that I'd seen with them was that they just generally were never willing to put anything out there. And I was like, why is that? And it's like, well, I don't want to come across salesy. I'm like, so what is salesy about it though? She's like, well, I don't like when people drop into my DMs like unsolicited, try to sell me things. And I'm like, when have we spoke once here about dropping into people's DMs like unsolicited? Yeah. And I was like, but so what's the actual problem here? Yeah. You know what I mean? So it's like, again, great thing about coaching and great thing for anyone even wanting to get to the bottom of their own shit. Once you ask yourself the question why 5 times, in many cases, you will find the root core cause of the problem. And then you can isolate that and you can fix it instead of trying to fix a symptom of a problem that will never fucking go away. Yeah, 100%, mate. And that's the thing. So when you don't address that voice, like, it will never go away until you... Because Joe was mad. See, when Hermosa came on and say, I was consuming so much of his shit that it was him I was hearing a lot of the times. Aye.
And it's like, Hermosa doesn't fucking know me. Doesn't have any context about what I'm doing, what business I have. He's talking from a fucking general like basis. I'm like, why the fuck am I hearing this fucking guy when I'm thinking about doing I don't know. I remember one of the times it was like I had this opportunity for another venture and it was like, no, focus on one thing, nothing else. But this thing seemed really good and I was like, what the fuck? And I could just hear him just being like, no, just focus on one thing.
Fucking try to relax in the bath and Hormozy comes out anywhere. You're like, what? But it's funny because the thing is as well, like someone like Hormozy, when they've got that platform and they've almost like positioned themselves as that authority, people will just follow a lot of what they say as well, when in context it doesn't apply. And that's what people need to be very careful of. Like the thing I don't really like about the fitness industry with coaches is that coaches are very bought into quick wins, tricks, strategies, tips to make like quick money, but don't have the skill to keep it. And they also don't like to do a lot of the thinking for themselves. They like to throw money at a problem. Oh. And it's like, I'm going to throw money at a problem and you're going to fix this problem for me. We are, you know yourself with that, there's zero experimentation done. Any experimentation done that doesn't maybe elicit the response that you need, it's like, oh, well, you told me you were going to get that result. And it's like, never actually said that, because genuinely, you cannot guarantee someone a result until you actually know everything you can about that person. And understand what areas are actually holding someone back from being successful. That's why I hate people always saying guaranteed, because you can have someone that's extremely competent at what they do versus someone who is not competent whatsoever. That person can get a result guaranteed, more than likely. Like, you give me a 12-week transformation thing, right? I will do it. You give my mod, completely different story. My competence versus my mod's competence, completely different. So it's the same thing in business as well. Like, you will have your physical competencies with training. You'll have your psychological competencies. Do you have your professional competence in place that both your physical and psychological competencies will have a fucking overarching resounding impact on? So it's like, you can't really guarantee, but people love being sold on a guarantee because it's safe and it's familiar and it's secure. And I actually said in my Instagram, I think it was last week, that nothing actually disillusions people more than the truth. Because like, they'll buy into the dream and they'll buy into the guarantee, and then when it's not delivered, the thing that they actually need help with, it's like, no, that's too good to be true. But they can easily buy into the big fucking the big dream and the big guarantee when it's like, make it make sense.
100%, mate. I think one of the things I like as well is like, just what you're touching on there, like, you've distilled down how to communicate why this is important. You can hear it in your voice, you can hear the conviction. And a lot of people, I had a client this morning, one of the high ticket clients, that he runs a paid ad service, but he's wanting to offer websites and SEOs. That was actually his first business, website and SEOs, right? Ventured into ads because people wanted quick wins. And websites and SEO wasn't giving it. He then ventured into paid ads. He's then got paid ads rolling. And then he's like, but I fucking love the website and SEO stuff. And he was like, but nobody wants to buy it because they want quick wins from ads. And I was like, but why do you believe it's so fucking important though? And he lists off like 5-6 different things. And I'm like, do you believe that if someone got inside your brain, or majority of trades businesses or other businesses got inside your brain, do you believe that they would believe in the importance of a proper website and SEO? And he was like, absolutely. I was like, well, we just need to take that out, get it into what ad class is like a show and tell funnel, where you're able to truly showcase why you think that way, why you've got those beliefs, and why they need to adopt them. Otherwise, their business isn't going to grow as fast, or whatever it is, like related to a tangible success currency of some sort. And he was like, fuck. And it's that same shit, because so many people can easily lean into, everyone wants money. So I'm just always going to talk about money. Whereas when you talk about true impact, like you're touching on, mate, it's incredible.
100%. I don't like people that just talk about money. Like, I met a guy, another coach that I know in the gym a while back, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and like, he came out of nowhere, and I was like, oh, how you doing, mate? And the first thing he said, right, not even like, oh, what's happening, mate? I'm good, how are you? Blah, 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 blah. He done on track to make 50k this month, and I was like, oh, fucking bore off, man. I remember why I've not seen you in months. Like, actual fuck off. And just that, it's like, if that is the most interesting thing about you, like, I don't want to be in the same room as you, in all honesty, because like, money makes the world go round. There will always be more money to make, and like, there's no need to showcase it, in my opinion. Like, showcase why you're valuable to invest in. Show me like the human side of you, because usually the best business owners that are actually doing great things, not just people that are making money, people that are doing great things, are really good human beings first, and then great business owners second. Whereas the people who think that they're just great business owners are people that are actually just making money, and making money for the sake of making money without actually knowing from a humanity aspect how much impact. I know coaches that are making upwards of 6 figures a month, but have like 0 results to show for it, just because it's all sales, all marketing, all high like fucking acquisition stuff, all like targeted ads to specific postcodes in the US that are like the wealthiest postcodes and all that, just trying to target the money. And I'm like, you do you, but it's not really me.
And I think it's something that needs to be touched on a lot more, because I think even just from a content perspective, it's like, I can understand why people like, I mean, somebody that springs to mind is like Ayman Gadzi. He gets a lot of fucking love and appreciation, and it's like he's someone that knows how to fucking market and sell. I've never been inside anything that he does. I know Andy's went through a couple of things, which I'm sure he'll touch on at some point, but it's like he knows how to truly market and sell, but as a result, people then just assume that everything is fucking incredible.
Aye.
When it's like you're saying, a lot of times people aren't actually willing to do the shit that is required to actually deliver an incredible fucking service to make people feel amazing.
Mate, 100%.
Yeah, I'd recommend anyone out there. I don't know if you read it before, Unreasonable Hospitality.
I've not, no.
Touched
Good
on
book.
it. Fucking incredible book.
Nice. Mate, I'm looking for some new book recommendations for this flying fucking shite I'm doing.
Bro, it will literally go into your top 3. I'm that confident.
Say it again.
Unreasonable Hospitality.
Cool. You can tell me after as well.
Yeah, when we dust this to go, it'll be all good. Anyone that's listening to us, I mean, if you follow me on Instagram, you've probably seen me speak about it a million times, but in terms of an incredible book, like that is one of them in terms of one on delivery, over-delivering, doing incredible things for your clients.
Yeah.
I mean, one of the stories in the book, without ruining it, I'm kind of contemplating whether or not I should even say it, but one of the stories in the book, he speaks about the fact that Will Guidara basically owned a restaurant in New York. It grew to be, I think, the number one restaurant in New York or the number one restaurant in the world. And one of the things that he actually employed, or like one of the roles that he brought in and then employed someone for, was the Dreamweaver. And the Dreamweaver's role was literally to walk around the restaurant and hear people speaking about their dreams and hear people speaking about what they wanted, hear people.
No way.
And literally their job was to try and make it a reality.
Shut up.
That
sounds class.
It was fucking unreal. So like one of them as an example was like, subtle one, I'll do the shittest example.
Please, I don't want you to ruin it for me.
And it was literally a guy that came in with 2 suitcases and he was sitting and he was like, oh, I'm gutted, like we're leaving tonight. Like I thought we'd be able to get one of those hot dogs from like one of the stands like we see in movies. Dreamweaver, straight outside, hot dog, came in, gave it to the chef plated it up, delivered
way.
it just as a like bonus.
Mate, that's unreal.
Fucking unreal, mate.
I really want to read that book. Like you just sold that to me in a very like short time frame, man.
Yeah. All I needed was like what, an hour and 15 to know what type of person you were.
Mate, listen, give me a hot dog for a hot dog stand. Like that's probably spoke to me more over the actual impact of that. Or maybe not. Both together, just like perfect combo.
No, they're class. They are class. So, I mean, obviously, we've got a good understanding of like starting from you actually being a coach to then now coaching other coaches, which, by the way, I didn't get a chance, like touching on the actual course teachings from that perspective, mate. Like, that's going to apply to, not that you need me to say it, but apply to so many fucking people, mate. And I think so many people need that as well, because I even see it sometimes from Bex's position where Bex wants to help so many people, mate.
Yeah.
But she's naturally not qualified to deal with a lot of fucking shit that she gets hit with.
Yeah.
And then she doesn't know what to do. So she's just sitting there and she's like,
aye.
She's got someone fucking crying their eyes out because they've got a divorce fucking going on and they fucking are gaining weight and not sticking to plans and they'll then churn. And Bex is like, but what do I do?
Aye.
And I'm like, the reality is like, you're like, that's not what you signed up for, sadly. And that's not what you thought was going to happen, which is a shame. And I think a lot of people need to be equipped, especially personal trainers and coaches need to be equipped with what it is that you're touching on.
Oh, mate, defo. Like that's the thing we see the most is like coaches fear that they'll overstep the line and then go into territory that they're not allowed to, or be hit with something and not know whether they should like try and deal with it or not. The great thing about coaching, Jen says this all the time, coaching is not about the context. So Jen, before, like in her previous roles, her main focus was coaching like execs and stuff like that. So she's coached people with 9-figure portfolios, teams of 5,000 plus, so like a lot of like team development stuff and all that. And she coached a rocket scientist previously, right? And it was like, I know fuck all about rockets, but he had a challenge that stands in his way, and that's where coaching comes in. So it was like, even though I don't know anything about rockets, it didn't matter because it's not about the context. The context is completely irrelevant to coaching.
Yeah.
So that's where we see with the skills that you develop and build to coach, that coaches then become like a necessity for people. Like even when it gets to a point where people are maybe challenged and it's like, should I leave, should I not leave? They don't want to leave because they see your skill set as that much of a necessity that they know that you can help them with anything. Because we've helped people through bankruptcy, divorces, we've helped people overcome like the loss of their children and all of that sort of shit. Like not the grieving part of it, like the stuff that we can help them with to move forward and still focus on their health, still focus on their fitness, still focus on like the parts of themselves that they can develop. But we also recommend a lot of our clients to therapy. But the way in which we do it, and because we're so forthcoming, like they don't see it as one or the other. They see them as both working synonymously, and therapists will tell you one of the best things you can do is still focus on your health and fitness. And we get our clients to feed back all of the things they're going through in therapy if they're willing to open like themselves up to it. And that then allows us to know, okay, this is what they're touching on, so we better veer quite carefully around these things that this person's supposed to be doing right now, navigate this kind of rough patch in a different way than was what initially was planned. You know, so it's like coaches need to be more equipped just in general as a kind of like overview for the entire industry, but that's why this has been created, because it's never been here up until now.
100%, man. Even just the touch on therapy as well, like therapy has been like the biggest fucking game changer for me as well, just understanding myself more, and also even I'd imagine from your perspective as well, you've probably got like a team of therapists that you'll refer to that you know will be to a good fucking standard as well, and I think that's a big component, mate, where people don't know how to find a good therapist or what a good therapist even looks like. They'll get one, they'll have a shit experience, or they'll not know like
why they're there. Aye. Well, we actually used to have a psychotherapist in our program until May this year. I think it was May. She was in there for 3.5 years. Wow. It was actually Dave's missus, so Dave Young's missus. So that was like a huge benefit to what we done. There wasn't, obviously, she couldn't practice the same way inside the program as she could on her own, but anything like else that she couldn't deal with in the community, we would refer out. So it was more of a one-to-one thing. And she was always well received. Our guys and girls, like they loved her.
I think like any incredible therapist that truly is an incredible therapist, you'll feel nothing but amazing things about them. Because I think like any first therapist I had, I ended up, she was so fucking class, I ended up becoming mates with her. And that fucked that. That was like that carry cross. Then the second one, I was like the guy, so the actual therapist I wanted, he wasn't available, he was there a waiting list, so I got referred to someone else. And he was like, I was like, nah, man, this just doesn't feel right. Like I know what a good therapist feels like. Then I've got this therapist that I've been working with for close to a year now. Once again, mate, it's like I'm fucking becoming like boys with him, man. I'm like,
you're like, step back for this. I still want to come and see you. Like, I still need you to help me with my shit. Don't be too pally with me. Stop fucking befriending me. I can't.
That's literally it. You end up, you're just like, fuck, man. Because when you find the right one, you build. I think a big thing for me as well is like when you find the right therapist, it's like that shares the same values as you, that knows where everything is genuinely stemming from, is able to unravel it. I think they feel a level of empathy for you. And then as a result, really like you, resonate with you. And like naturally, if someone's got good values and you've got good values, regardless of whether or not they're your therapist, you still like have a laugh, fucking joke about shit. Like you'll build a natural relationship, and it's it's quite a fucking unique problem to be fair to run into.
Shout out to John's therapist, by the way. What's his name?
Fraser.
Shout out to you, bro.
Yeah, no, Fraser's class.
I do like good cunts doing good things.
Yeah. No.
As you can imagine.
Yeah, 100%, mate. Well, so from an aspect of goals, future plans, obviously I know this is, by the way, your launch for Build Coach was...
The video, do you like it? Aye, mate, honestly, my videographer was, I think I was doing his tits in.
Mate, I literally watched it like a couple of times. And then the next morning rolled around, I said to Jack, I was like, you seen Mark's launch video? And he was like, nah, I've not seen it. And I was like, pull it up and then show me, like, I'll watch it with you. Because I was like, it was fucking class, mate. It was unreal.
But you know what's so funny as well, right? So like, I've literally built my businesses off of doing like zero cold outbound, right? And it's never really been my jam. I've always just ran like multiple different lead acquisition processes, marketed from multiple different angles and avenues. Obviously, a lot of who I am, I think, has done the heavy lifting with the opportunities I've had and the people that I've been around, and people know who I am and everything I'm about, kind of thing. But I get banned from Instagram so my birthday was on the 5th of November, and that day I wasn't allowed to like things, unfollow people, follow people, any of that sort of stuff. I don't do it anyway, but I got a notification for it, and I was like, why? And it said that I'd been spamming it. The only thing I can think of is I said cunt in one of my bits about the coach content the week before, and it got removed. Right? So I wasn't able to like anything from the 7th, and I was launching on from the 5th, and I was launching on the 10th. And then, again, still couldn't like anything, any of that sort of stuff. And then on the following Tuesday, so I'd already been barred for a week, and that was just 6 days ago. They sent me a message and was like, yeah, you're now banned till the 19th. So I've just went through an entire launch where it said I can't like anything, follow anyone, unfollow anyone, share anything, comment on my own posts. I can't start new conversations with people that I've not started conversations with previously or haven't sent me a message. And it's shadow banning my content reach. all during a launch. But it's fucking challenging, isn't it? You just have to overcome.
Yeah.
But that's also why you should have multiple different avenues of acquiring new leads, because if something like that happens at the worst time,
I'm kind of pissed that we've not actually touched on like actual business strategy stuff. To be fair, we need to run that back for like a
next time,
a round 2, mate.
Next time, let us know if you want a round 2 or you're fucking sick of listening to me.
They'll be all over it, mate. Because I think as well, like business wise, it's like, I mean, a lot of what we've touched on just now is general life advice, which has been fucking incredible, and obviously getting insight proper into your journey, which then gets buy-in for a round 2.
Yeah.
Whereas I feel like if you just run up a round 2 for the sake of running up a round 2, it's like, what's the point?
Do vote on it though. Like, I'd rather you vote and actually say come back. I don't want to come back if you don't want me.
Love it. So yeah, I guess from a goals perspective, did we unravel that fully?
No. We were talking about the launch, by the way. I'm no kidding. I watched that about, I don't know how many times, but it's got something like, it's wild. It's got something like 27 hours of watch time.
Fucking hell,
I think 26 for me. It's only like 2 minutes long or something like that as well. Yeah. So I'm like, people have actually spent a whole day watching that. In theory,
it's fucking mental.
I know. So future goals, mate. Like goals wise, my whole thing is just like safety, security, stability for my family when I'm older. Like I'm in my 30s now. Obviously, me and my wife always knew that we would be having kids a wee bit later. So probably in the next like 3 or 4 years. And everything I'm doing right now is gearing towards like just facilitating the dad I want to be at that point, probably.
Yeah.
Like I've literally worked my tits off for the best part of 11 years. Like I've sacrificed so much. I've not been scared or shied away from anything that I've needed to. I've like got my head down and knew that it would be a long process to establish where I wanted to be. But now, especially with this new launch, the whole thing about this new launch was like, I am building this business around everything that I want moving forward, instead of like having to do some of the shittier work that you have to do to become more established and get in front of more people. I was like, I'm at that point now where I can realistically say, this is what I want to do, this is what I don't want to do. And that's what I want to do for kind of long-term happiness. So like I've got investments anyway that will take care of me like further down the line. So anything monetary right now isn't really a goal as such. Like I've got goals for like impact. So like different places I want to talk, and like different people I want to deliver in front of, and different people I want to connect with, and different kind of avenues of exploring similar things that we're currently doing, but just in an expanded kind of way. Especially with Jen's kind of background in team and leadership development, like we're starting to get quite a few people through that inquiring about like literally team development projects as well. So we can cover education, we can cover business, we can cover infrastructure. We're in the process of potentially tying one in for someone in America, and some of the team development stuff is like done better in person. Yeah. So I'm like, I'll fucking fly me to America. I'll be done. Like I'll be done in 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Yeah. So like we're looking at how we can. Our whole thing has always been top of the pyramid. How can we be at the top of the pyramid and make sure that the impact just goes all the way down? Yeah. So I become a dad, probably at some point. Impact as many lives as I can. Be a fucking generally good person. Stay healthy. Connect with great people. Done one today. And then, yeah, mate, that's it. Just generally live how I've always lived and take risks, take opportunities that stand before me. I don't really like setting time frame goals, because I don't really believe the time frame goals really always lead to a particular outcome, because there is challenges that crop up along the way. I think some people work better under that pressure, whereas in many cases when I apply that pressure I actually see that less happens. It's like the whole chasing thing, and it runs away. So I just let things fucking go. I just plan it out, and I'm like, I'm not guaranteeing anything's going to happen at this point, but if I get to this point and I'm not roughly where I would maybe expect to believe to be, then I'll review, and then I'll move forward.
Yeah, I agreed, mate. I agreed. We could go on for fucking hours, mate. There was like 3 things that we could unpack there, mate, but we're not going to get to
Write it down after we're finished.
Paul's going to kick us out in a minute anyway. So
sorry, Paul.
We'll round up, but thank you so much, brother. Honestly, that was fucking
You're welcome,
mate.
Thanks for having me on.
We'll need to run it back without a doubt. But troops, obviously, if you loved this episode, be sure to let us know on Instagram. Obviously, where people can find you, actually. We didn't touch on that.
Instagram, so Mark Strathern _ and then Built Coach is also the educational one. So Mark Strathern _ is like the main one just for me. Built Coach is the educational business. All one word, no spaces. Facebook, Mark Strathern. LinkedIn, Mark Strathern. Mark Strathern everywhere.
Perfect. Well, that will give you the perfect opportunity to connect with Mark Tripp. So if you're on YouTube, guys, obviously we've got content rolling out weekly now. So be sure to subscribe. If you're on Spotify, be sure to follow, leave a review, let me know what you thought of the episodes. And yeah, have an incredible day.